done for me. Here I am to worship you without any restraint. You're the only way, the truth and life that makes me free. In adoration I worship you, Lord.
You're listening to Spiritual Encounters with Pastor Caspar McLeod. And now, here's your lion-hearted host, Pastor Caspar.
Welcome to another edition of Spiritual Encounters, and I am your lion-hearted host, Pastor Caspar. I'm here because I want to tell you about this wonderful book, Nathan Reynolds, Snatched from the Flame. Nathan, tell us what's going on with this, because Dr. Michael Legg, our good friend, introduced us, and now you're one of my best friends as well. Brother in Christ.
Yes.
Tell us what's going on here. You have a relationship with Dr. Legg and his wife Mary, and there's some strange stuff going on in the past.
Yes, yeah. The book really is a quest. It chronicles my quest of trying to understand what it was that I'd been through on one side of it. I was born with this constant unknowing going on in my life, and not really able to really set foot in any stable platform between Luciferianism and Christianity. And my family on one side was very open Christian folks that were your best friend and the nice neighbor next door, and then behind the scenes they were using their children to compromise people, whether it was people within the church or people that were business partners, politicians. And so I was stuck with this, never knowing what it was like to be free, never knowing what my identity really was. And it's like a lot of folks out there today that are wrestling with their own identity of who it is, and so much of the Christian church has lost their identity. And this book is my quest to make a decision in my life where I'm willing to finally share with the woman that I love, a woman who I adore, a woman I marry, who knows nothing about this murderous rampage and rage and hatred that I had lived through for years of my life, and the violence and the abuse, and finally making a decision that I needed to tell her that. And a miraculous conception of our daughter, which gave me the opportunity to snatch a single generation out of that and to lead her out of a future that was destined for pain and for torment. And so this book is our story of going up against people that were hell-bent on seeing us destroyed, and the power of the living God to deliver people no matter what they've been a part of.
You were very aware of what's going on with quantum physics, and we were talking about that this weekend. And we are here in an undisclosed location. And hark, I hear someone at the door.
There could be another person joining us.
Could be.
We'll see.
We'll see what happens.
There is another person joining us.
And we are recording. We're waiting for the Richard shot. Please sit down.
Hey.
Howdy.
Sorry, I've been trying to find you guys. I'm looking, I didn't see anybody in here.
We all in here. Good. You need to maybe sleep a little bit closer.
Yeah.
So we were just talking about Nathan's book, and we should, we are at an undisclosed location, deep in the heart of Prophecy Watchers. Because it even got the Prophecy Watcher hat.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. What a wonderful time this has been.
Yeah.
It's been a really incredible conference. I mean, all the people are so into it, and a lot of them are really super knowledgeable and have studied a lot themselves. Yeah. So it's a real receptive crowd. It's just kind of like a dream come true if you're trying to, tell people about this stuff.
And you had standing room only in your presentations.
Well, I was lucky, I guess.
Well,
I doubt there was a lot of luck at play there. This has been hard dedication for you for many years.
Well, I've worked really hard on the presentations. Actually worked a couple months on them.
Wow.
Believe it or not, because I'd do something and then I'd look at it and go, no, that's not going to do anything for anybody, and I'd take that out and I'd put something else in. That doesn't work. I'd take something out. So I finally, and then every night I would look at it myself. Is that going to work? Is that going to say what is that going to offend anybody? Is that going to reveal too much information? It's that kind of a dance that you have to go through to make it right. But now that I have it, I could probably do it again somewhere else.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
So we were just talking about quantum entanglement, and then you had an interesting explanation about that, because you've done some work in that area.
Well-
Expound on that. We got particles on two ends of the universe, all still connected.
Yeah, and I've been recently introduced to a movement that's been starting out there that's kind of been happening for years. I didn't know there's this group that has realized that it's better to bring consciousness to your AI, and so a lot of what my understanding comes from is AI and through quantum mechanics and quantum computing. And so the problem that people began to run into is how do you bring consciousness into your AI systems, and how do you define those logic rules into the systems in order to bring that into it? And so what you're starting to see, though, is that they're bringing in doctrines and philosophies of some of the leading grandmothers and grandfathers of the New Age, and they're taking their doctrines for healing, their doctrines for using the light of the universe and all these healing practices into quantum computers, and they're encoding that into their eyes. And so a lot of the people that are building these, they're wanting to broadcast healing frequencies through these AIs. And what they found is that if you encode these specific individuals, say like Hannah Kellogg, who is someone who has considered a grandmother of the New Age, and people have taken her doctrines and have written that into the codes of their AIs, and they're starting to interface with Hannah, right? And so they believe that this is the essence of the healing magic or the healing powers that can come through her.
Oh, that's so wild.
And so I was sitting in a room as this was being demonstrated, and they're broadcasting these frequencies into people in the room, and they're wanting to use this as a way to clear out hospitals and heal the world simultaneously. And so people are thinking some of this stuff is way far out there, and the reality is this technology was created almost 10 years ago. 10 years ago.
And this is what we know about.
This is what we know of. This is what I'm sitting in a room in the middle of Colorado, and I'm watching people do a presentation on this and administering this to another member of my team at the time. And so this stuff is not something that's far out, and this is stuff that's kicking in people's doors.
So you're
and you
also
don't even
talking
realize
about robotics, correct?
that one was not specific to robotics. This was predominantly as like almost based off a desktop computer, whereas the AI system itself was based in another state. And they're using broadcasting.
Are they doing any experiments with, there's this kind of water that you can store information?
Yes, that is also what they're wanting to use it for, so that you can use the water memory to be able to. So part of the problem they ran into is that you needed people's permission. You needed people's permission in order for this frequency broadcast array, in order for it to work. Well, they figured if you can actually use water, you don't have to get people's permission. And so they are using the stored memory in water in order to broadcast that. And they're wanting to use Gaias to restore and recreate the living waters of the earth so that people can get this healing medicine even if they don't ask for it.
Right.
Yeah.
I see a connection here, like when you did the time delineation with maybe you can expound on that.
Oh, you mean the Cambergas UFO?
Right, the UFO. I think.
Sure, I mean, it's pretty wild, and people may think it's really crazy, but 3 years in a row, in 07, 08, and 09, a very large spaceship appeared over the Sea of Marmara in Turkey, and it was basically adjacent to a small town called Cambergas, which is kind of close to Istanbul. And this thing came back every year in the same time. And it would attract a group of onlookers that would stand on the beach and watch this thing hover for hours. It would show up, I don't know, around in the evening sometime and leave before like 6 a.m. About the time the sun was coming up, it turned its running lights on, and the thing had been hovering out over the sea about a mile from the shore every time. Well, the last time that it came was in 2009, and there was a videographer that attached a lens extender and zoomed it way out and captured this thing on DV tape in those days. And it was examined by the university in Istanbul, and they said, this is real, it's not been faked or anything like that. So then a guy in Chile examined it and discovered that in the portals there were windows, and he could see beings in those windows, the big-eyed grays, and then a third creature, which was really kind of
moving very fast.
Very fast, yeah. So when Roger told me about that, I said, look, if you'll give me that footage, because he had it like digitized on a thumb drive at high res. It wasn't like a
This is
YouTube.
Dr. Roger.
Dr. Roger Lear.
Yeah.
was a really close friend of mine, and I said, look, if you give it to me, I'll convert it to HD and color correct it and give it back to you. And he goes, okay, great. So that we agreed to do that. So I thought, I'm just going to see if I can see this third alien, if it's really possible. And all I could see was just like, it was like static almost, you know, but yet there was something moving, and I could see like things flying around, and I couldn't tell what it was. And I thought, something's moving, but it's moving too fast. So I slowed it way down and adjusted the luminance levels and everything to bring it out. And sure enough, there was this third being that looked like an insectoid kind of being, like a praying mantis head, triangular shaped head with the big huge eyes. And it was moving its head back and forth like this. And it gave me a real insight on how these creatures live. They're all like smushed up together in a very small confined space, like insects are. But this thing had been hovering, and we've been told, because of various ufologists that have studied how these ships hover, that they're basically warping gravity to do that. And when you do that, it affects time, because time and gravity are interconnected. And if you get too close to the bubble that's surrounding that spaceship, then you're sucked into that time domain. But this was a guy with a camera on the beach watching something that was hovering in a different time domain, and when I slowed it way down, I could see everything.
I remember you showing me some of the clips that you were working on, and it was extraordinary to see that. And it's in Watchers.
Yeah, it's in Watchers 9.
Yeah.
And there's also a clip that I released on Vimeo. Anybody can look at it if they want to.
We'll try to post those links below. So,
Yeah.
the gist of it was an amazing conference again.
Yeah.
What's the take home for you?
The biggest take home for me generally is my time getting to fellowship with other speakers and with people, and hearing where it is that they're going right now. You know, I know so many people, like you said, you've been working on your presentation for months, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of folks, it's like they're spending all this time preparing for that. But I know, like any of us, we don't just stop, right? This isn't all that you're
No.
working on, right? And so my favorite thing to take away is to get to know what they're working on now, right? Not what they worked on for the conference, of what they're working on now. And what I love seeing is how many people get to have so many connections that are made in their mind, and where their research is going in areas that are filling in gaps. And so to me, that was my favorite thing that I got to take away from this.
Well, what you were saying earlier, I find really intriguing, that they're trying to impregnate these values into AI somehow, and that's weird. That's like merging spiritual stuff with electronics.
Yes.
And you know, I had no idea that they were doing that.
Yeah, and well, and what you're seeing is a lot of the people, the architects, the ones who are designing many of these systems, they're trying to bring back oftentimes dead relatives, and so they'll take their journals, they'll take all of their writings, and they want to make they want to make an image of their relative, right? And so these
Wow.
people have figured out that you can kind of have something come alive by doing that. And what I think you're starting to begin to deal with is, it's not that, even, let's say Hannah was a conscious AI, right? I don't believe what you're getting is Hannah herself back from the dead and anything else, but what I do believe you're getting is the doctrines of demons, the doctrines of
Familiar
demonoids,
spirits.
and the familiar spirit that impregnated the minds of these people with those doctrines are now inhabiting the system, that in order to continue to propagate that doctrine on a broader scale, and they're using scalar antenna arrays in order to be able to broadcast this
Wow,
in a much more
that's
efficient system.
fascinating.
Yeah.
Well, you know, just before Gary was doing his big announcement, his computer suddenly failed.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like this kind of thing has happened to me so many times, where all of a sudden the power goes out for no reason.
Right.
Well, we've seen this
all that.
phenomena in these conferences before, which is how I wrote the LA Marzulli song, because LA's computer wasn't ready. It went down just as he was walking on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So,
yeah. When I was doing the announcement on February 2nd, when we were doing the DNA announcement at the hotel, I was watching a YouTube video in my room, and all of a sudden the computer buzzed and burned out. So I didn't have it the next day when I wanted it.
well, we must remember to continue pressing in and praying, because the Lord said, behold, I give unto you power over all the
Yeah.
works of the enemy. Nothing shall
Yes.
by any means harm you.
But I do believe the electronics thing, this is why what you're saying really resonates with me, because I believe that's possible.
Absolutely.
They're working at some kind of level that can interfere with electrical energy.
Yeah. Well, if we know that the enemy is the prince of the power of the air, right? This second heavenly realm is their domain, right? This quantum realm, it's being alluded to as kind of this, oh my gosh, this missing piece that we're starting to understand and starting to meddle with. I think when you're talking quantum, you're talking spirit realm. You're talking second heaven reality.
Well, you've heard about QFS, right?
What's QFS?
QFS is the quantum financial system.
Okay.
That's what the banking system apparently is moving into, because they can't handle the amount of transactions on the current computers. So they're moving to a quantum computer system, QFS. And to me, like, all of these things are like a preface to the whole mark and all of those things that are supposed to happen. And once that's instigated, it'll be really easy for them to do that.
Well, we know with my presentation was talking how artificial intelligence, we've got Elon Musk even saying, we may be summoning demons, and what's the guy's name? Michio Kaku.
Kaku,
Yeah,
yeah.
he stated that artificial intelligence shall be, much bigger than the automobile industry ever was.
Yes, absolutely.
So we're looking at this thing unfolding at the same time. You witnessed firsthand when you were filming the extraction of the implant.
Cloaking
Oh, yeah.
itself, and
Yeah.
the power of prayer to stop that.
Right.
You watched
As well.
it on the screen, maybe just for somebody that might not have missed that.
Well, we had a guy, it was basically this man named Emil, because now his name is out there and generally in public, but he came over as part of the company that we were leasing a house from, and had to, by law, inspect all of the smoke alarms, okay? So this guy said, okay, we're sending him over. So this guy, like 6'7", knocks on my door, really nice guy, just reaches up and checks the battery and all. He didn't have to get a ladder out or anything. Then walks up to my studio where I'm working on watchers, and he said, what is it you do up here? And I said, I'm working on a show. It's about UFOs and alien implants and the Torah codes and the Shroud of Turin and all these things. And he goes, oh, I love UFOs. So I gave him one of the discs we'd done on UFOs. And I said, I also been working with Dr. Lear on alien implants. And he looked right at me and said, I have an implant. I said, well, what makes you think you have one? And he told me this story, how these little beings came into his room and he went unconscious, and now he's got this thing in his leg that gives him great pain, and he doesn't know what to do about it. I said, well, look, if you really think you have an implant, get an x-ray of it and send me the x-ray, and I'll give it to my friend Dr. Lear, because he's the world expert on these things. And that's how we ended up doing Watcher 7. And this guy did indeed have an alien implant in his leg, and we had it surgically removed. And to remove it, we used an ultrasound device. We'd done x-rays and CAT scans on it first. But to remove it, we had to get right down to find out exactly where it was, so we wouldn't be cutting into this man's leg in the wrong spot. It was Dr. Matriciano who did the surgery. So he puts the ultrasound device all over the leg, and on the first trip that we did, he found out like a minute and a half. But when we came back to actually remove it, we couldn't find it. It disappeared. And we looked for it for an hour in this little strip of skin on his leg, and it didn't show up on any of our devices. And I was shooting the monitor on the ultrasound with my camera, and I was kind of praying to myself, Lord, we really need to find this thing because we're all set up for it, and he needs to get it out of his body. And then LA just belted out this prayer all of a sudden. Because, guys, I'm just going to pray real quick. We just pray, who's ever cloaking this thing will stop doing it so we can find it. That's about all he said.
In the name of Jesus.
Yeah, in the name of Jesus. And about a minute and a half later, the doctor's like using the ultrasound again, and I'm watching the screen, and it just goes and dissolves into frame. Now, we hadn't seen it in an hour, and he wasn't going over a spot we hadn't seen before, and it was released. And then we went in and surgically removed it.
And when you did take it out, maybe just share a little on that.
It was like a little boomerang-shaped, maybe 6 millimeters in length, crystallized metal, and we looked at it under electron microscope. It had all of the same elemental makeup as other implants that we'd investigated before using electron microscopy, and also EDX, which is energy dispersion X-ray spectroscopy, which basically tells you the elemental content of whatever it is you're looking at under the microscope. And so, you know, it had nickel and iron and carbon. Carbon was the connective agents to the body. And it came out of a little sheath that it had grown around it with a little amber fluid inside to protect it. And it hadn't, and we had the sheath that it came out of analyzed at a pathology lab, and they said there was no sign of infection or inflammation. And it had been in his leg for 40 years. So it's really high-tech stuff.
And you thought at the time this could possibly be a prototype of the mark of the beast.
Yeah, but I'm not so certain because of what it says in Revelation, because everyone broke out with grievous sores and all of that. And we read now about the new G5 process, you know, with the cell phone technology and stuff, and how, and basically the only reason I mention that is because it operates at something like 90 gigahertz, which is close to microwave frequencies, so actually it can actually cook the skin. And if these new implants that they're using for the mark of the beast are using that same frequency, I could see how that would cause a real inflammatory problem in a human body, if that's what they're doing.
I mean, we know right now that we have secular companies like IBM manufacturing brain chips implants.
Yeah,
There's a coming day. I mean, they're already implanting people with things. People willingly queuing up to have implants.
Right.
And you too can, you know,
And they
get
want
connected, get connected to the internet, and then you can instantly access all the information in the world.
Yeah. And it wouldn't be any type of a beguiling, right? Unless people really wanted it. People are going to hunger after it, right? Their whole world is going to long for it and desire it, right?
well, yeah, and quite frankly, if I was a kid and really into electronics and programming and all that, I'd want to try it, you know, not knowing about any of these dangers. It's like, well, you know, I could always have it removed.
Why not?
If I don't like it, maybe that would really be cool to be able to do that. You know, it was the idea of the, you know, the
Cyber.
glasses they had for a while, you know, and all of those things. And how could I enhance my brain so I could remember stuff better?
Right.
You know, how could I add memory to my feeble brain tissue, you know?
Well, and so many of us got so deep. I mean, the Matrix showed us kind of how that could look, about where, why would I want to learn a new skill set when I can just immediately have that downloaded and dropped into me?
Yeah.
Right? And we do have this culture that is moving more and more to less patience, less willingness to take the time to actually do it in the right way or learn the skill set, and more just like, I just need it now. Instantaneous gratification, just instant gratification of it. And that offers that to people, right? I don't need to learn about the books. I'll just upload all the books all at once.
Right.
Well, we see a day coming, but I did part of that in my presentation, but we may not need libraries anymore. In fact, if you want to go read about, you know, Sir Winston Churchill, for example, and it's a hologram, and you'll have a conversation with him just as if he was still alive. I mean, I think ultimately the transhumanists are hoping that you'll be convinced to give up your body. It tells us, you know, that you can upload your consciousness into software, and then you'll be able to travel anywhere in the universe.
Well,
You'll be like another god.
Right.
This movie that came out just a couple of years ago, which I downloaded to my phone, called Limitless.
Yes.
Have you seen that?
Yes. Yeah.
I just couldn't remember the name of it. But basically it was where you take this pill and it opens up your mind, and it uses, like, it's at a 10% of your computing power. It opens up your whole mind so you can remember anything and draw on things you looked at, you know, 20 years ago, and it pops right into your consciousness. And everybody, I think, wants that kind of thing.
But it tells us too, I mean, that's why we have to study the show, to also prove that in that day men shall seek death and not be able to find it. I mean, so I think they're going to come to a place soon where they will achieve immortality without God, and then they're going to be eternally regretting that decision.
Yeah,
I mean,
electronically.
I think how King Agrippa said, you know, the apostle, you almost convinced me.
Yeah.
Now he's in eternity thinking of was that close from salvation. Now he's on the wrong side of the equation.
Well, and one of his main problems too was that he received worship as a god, right? Why is it that he was cursed with worms to devour him, right? Because he just like Nebuchadnezzar, anytime man ascends
Well, you
himself.
think of Herod.
I'm sorry, I'm thinking of Herod.
Yeah,
but another time in life where people become as gods, right? And like Nebuchadnezzar, even in and of himself, not giving glory to God for the kingdom that he had arisen from, and it's pride blinds us, though. That's its primary characteristics. Is it blinds us from seeing and understanding that and receiving things that should not be ours, including immortality, right? Like that's not going to fit this skin suit well.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, I shared some in my presentation about, like, there's some monkeys that had spinal injuries, and they were able to put in these new micro brain chips, and then the monkey was able to instantly act like it had never been injured. It had all full use of its limbs again. They had other ones where monkeys were in wheelchairs, and just by the implants, now the monkey could control the wheelchair just by thoughts alone. This is where it's going, and rapidly. I mean, we are in the last of the last days, and this is why we're doing these conferences, because most churches, unfortunately, won't actually share the whole gospel. They're sharing little parts of it, and then we've got this wide divide happening between the superficial type church and the supernatural church. The Lord warns us about the 7 churches. So,
but it's not profitable, right? The church model has been based off franchise Christianity, and it's not good for business if you start to teach a salty, like true salty gospel is not popular. He said, broad is the way that leads to destruction, but narrow is the path that leads to life, and few are they that find it.
so either you're in the business of God or you're about God's business.
That's it, and that's the divining rod that each of us are supposed to be upon. We're supposed to be on a set apart people. We're supposed to be peculiar. It says if the world loves you, you have no part in me. Right? The world is not supposed to be like us. We're not supposed to look like it. We're not supposed to be loved by the world.
The Lord Jesus offended so many people. They crucified him.
Yes.
And, you know, if pastors aren't offending you, maybe you need to find one that will.
But he
because you
waited
need to
at,
get on the narrow path here.
he had a plan for how long he could withstand all of their, I mean, because like, they would be like going after him and he would disappear from the middle amongst them.
Yeah,
you
like
know?
walk through their midst, right?
Yeah.
He's walking through them,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And then later when he appears to the disciples, they don't recognize him, you know, after he's, you know, appears in the middle of their room, and Thomas is like freaking out. It's like, so I mean, there's all of this supernatural stuff going on with Christ, and yet there's supernatural stuff throughout the whole Bible.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much.
Beginning to end.
It's just great stuff, and yet our churches don't delve into that. They
Yeah.
just don't want to read about it. They don't want to read about this hit squad that came down, you know, in Ezekiel 9 and killed everybody, and threw their bodies in the temple courtyard, and then the light of God comes out of the Holy of Holies and hovers over so everybody can see them. I mean, that's friggin' weird.
Yeah.
You know?
Like going out and marking the people that were weeping and grieving, right? There was...
And killing them with what they say, a powerful weapon.
Right.
They don't say it
what
was a
is that?
sword, you know, was it a particle beam weapon? Or was, I think it was something really weird, something very sci-fi.
That Ezekiel had no language to even ascribe to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, what do we do with those passages? Do we just say they're just myth? Do we just blow them off? Do we believe the Bible or not? You know, it's like, that stuff's in there.
It is indeed. We've got some homework to do.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Continue to study, to show yourself
That's right.
through the Word of God. So what's next for you?
Well, we're trying to get our big Israel project funded. And it's going to take a lot of money to do it, but we want to get it done.
We've got some exciting things about that.
Yeah.
Amazing discoveries.
I mean, I had no idea people would eat it up the way they did. I was kind of shocked. It was so much fun, you know, getting to finally share that with everybody, you know. But we got to do it.
So how can people get in touch with you?
Pinlight.com. It's my website. PINLIGHT.com.
Right. Do check that out. And
Yeah.
you, Nathan, how can people best get this?
Yeah, they can go to Amazon.com and search Snatched from the Flames, or they can go to SnatchedFromTheFlames.com, and they can follow along with us over at our YouTube channel as well, and our blog is right there on that as well. So
Fantastic.
thank you, Caspar. for having us on.
Well, I'm delighted that we got to work together and minister this weekend again, and looking forward to the next one. And not to worry, they'll both be back on Spiritual Encounters.
There you go.
So until then, we'll see you here, there, or in the air. God bless each one of you.
Bye.
I got a new life in Jesus. I've got a reason to live. I've got a new life in Jesus. He's the way, I'm positive.
Spiritual Encounters with Caspar McLeod is a production of the Upper Room Fellowship and Caspar McLeod Ministries. Visit us at theupperroomfellowship.org. This program is released under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives 4.0 International License. The intro and outro music is performed by Caspar McLeod from his album Communion, available at theupperroomfellowship.org.
In my face, since I learned to pray, I've got a new life in Jesus. I've got a reason to live. I've got a new life in Jesus.
Nimrod's head remains in a jar. They still treat him like a star. Monatomic gold only burns so far, where darkness guides the bizarre. Lest those days be shortened, no flesh shall remain. Salvation is still offered before Jesus comes again. The black hope and CERN embrace, nanobots and neural lace. Program your thoughts without a chase. Control the flow, control the space. Let those days be shortened, oh, no flesh shall remain. Salvation is still offered before Jesus comes again. The red dragon rides deep waves. NASA covers up hidden graves. False messiahs of the airwaves misbehave, sending microwaves. Let those days be shortened, no flesh shall remain. Salvation is still